Alright, for today's lesson we are going to do Julius Caesar. Now yesterday we began and ended the Punic Wars. So what happens next? Well, the Punic War ends, and as we know from yesterday's lesson, Rome wins the Punic Wars, all three of them. Because of this, Rome becomes the strongest city of the region. Nobody contested them. Little tiny places spring up, but nobody really contested them in the long run. The larger Rome got over time, the more unstable the Republic form of government became. The Republic form of government began to get very shaky, and it began to lose interest in Rome. Why does the Republic collapse, though? There's discontent among the lower classes, power struggles, want more money, issues among the lower class. There was also a breakdown in military order, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. The military order side of it, the generals were not getting respect, and the soldiers were feeling like they could lead better than the generals. So treason began to happen, and issues began to happen as well. Other issues that began to happen was an economic collapse. The rich began to live on these huge estates. The poor worked on the estates like slaves. Very similar to the plantation style that you'll learn about in 7th grade. More of plantation Civil War style. This was really the first introduction of that style. By 100 BC, 1/3 of the Roman population was enslaved. That's how serious it had become as far as an economic collapse. People had to work off their debts, and so people were enslaved because of that. Out of the dust of all these problems emerges Julius Caesar. In 60 BC, Julius Caesar joins Crassus, which is a wealthy Roman, and Pompey, which is a popular general, to create something called a triumvirate. A triumvirate is a group of 3 rulers that rule successfully over a period of time. These 3 ruled for 10 years. Now, who was Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar was basically a military leader who had his own army, which we're going to talk about here in a second. And he basically knew he had to have some money, so he joins Crassus, and knew he had to have some people behind him, so he joins Pompey in a triumvirate, which when you see tri, it basically means 3. Caesar takes power. He leads his army in successful battles throughout France. He begins getting too powerful. Pompey, one of his triumvirate partners, breaks apart from the group, and he urges the Senate to disband Caesar's legions, which we'll talk about what a legion is tomorrow. Caesar marches into Rome instead of having Pompey break them off. He marches into Rome instead. Pompey ends up fleeing Rome. Caesar defeats Pompey in Greece, Spain, and Egypt. Those 3 spots are the 3 spaces that Caesar defeats Pompey. In 44 BC, Caesar is named dictator for life in Rome. So he is now the dictator of Rome in 44 BC. The final thing of Julius Caesar, beware the Ides of March. This is one of the most famous events in history. Senators expressed concern over Caesar's popularity and power. They fear that they are beginning to lose their influence over all of Rome. As a result, Caesar is stabbed to death, basically backstabbed or stabbed in the back. That's where the idea comes from. By a gang of senators led primarily by Brutus. Brutus is considered at the time Caesar's best friend. He is killed by his best friend. On March 15th, 44 BC, there are over 100 or a little bit less than 100 stabs. So it is serious.
Good afternoon, North Johnston Middle. A couple of announcements we need to make. The following students have messages to pick up.
Caesar's legacy. He has helped the poor by creating jobs that they didn't have before Caesar. He increased pay for soldiers, moved them up to minimum wage we know now, and he began to build projects that are still around still today. This is probably the most famous person in all of Rome.
Reminder that